Okay, this is quite a sad story. Land Rover death, crash father was incompetent, court hears. This was about 10 years ago where Nigel Gresham, I'm pretty sure he really doesn't want to be reminded of this because he's come out of prison. He killed four of his seven children in a crash with a Land Rover. Now, the court decided that he was at fault because his Land Rover was in very bad condition and he'd done most of the work on it himself. It's a very sad story, and you can Google it and find it. This is his Land Rover. It crashed into the river and drowned four of the children. What I'd say here, and this really does get me when I talk about things, especially with Land Rover repairs, is that if you don't do it properly, you can kill people. Vehicles are killing machines, and the bigger they are, the more people they'll kill. Anyway, from a newspaper article, experts found that the caliper on the offside front brake was larger than the one on the near side front brake, which caused the car to slew when the brakes were applied. Now, just remember this, these were two different sized calipers because I'll show you later that pistons can actually be of different sizes. So obviously he had a fair amount of imbalance on his front axle, which pulled him over. There's more to it, but the article goes on to say the brake pedals, or the brake pedal it should read, were worn so badly that the pedal had to be pressed pretty much down to the floor before it began to stop the car. Well, they did actually test this vehicle. There used to be videos on the internet. I don't think you can find them anymore, but they took this vehicle and they tested it, and they found this completely unroadworthy, which the poor guy, he didn't know what he was doing. He was actually a moderator on a forum, which is quite shocking. So the lesson here is even things on the internet that you watch and things you read and people what they say, they might not be right. You have to make sure you get qualified people if you don't know. Okay, so let's get a little bit more upbeat, and hello and welcome back to the Land Rover Toolbox videos. Right, I have a big pile of calipers here, and not all of these are going to be overhauled. I've got to find the ones that are any good. And we also have a packet which has been sent to me by Neil Enzer from 4x4x4, and it's a nice little surprise in here. You can have a guess if you want to see. I'll show you what's in it, but not yet. This is going to be something really good for Land Rover owners and for the LRTV. So what I have here is, well, it's a common old garden front caliper. It's a 4-pot, and it only has a single brake line feed, but it has a facility for 2 brake line feed. However, this basically is hydraulic fluid that pushes the pistons, and it is in 2 halves. Some people like to split these. I don't, simply because these have been worked, they've been hot and cold, so they could distort. You have bolts you can undo. There are O-rings in here, but it's not something that I would recommend, simply because these calipers, as they get older, they've had a lot of heat and they can misshape. So the difference between vented and non-vented discs is the vented discs will have a spacer in the caliper, whereas the non-vented ones will not have. And this one is a split system or dual line caliper. Okay, you've got 2 lines going into it, and you have 2 separate areas. So you'll have 2 pistons working on one system and 2 pistons working on another. This is a safety feature. This is on earlier vehicles, and basically they don't go for that now. This is the D2 type of caliper, and this is a better design actually all the way around. You have rubber boots to preserve the piston, and they usually generally do it until the rubber boot splits. This is one that I've dropped into the electrolysis tank to clean it right out, because these were really, really shitty. And I still have to inspect them yet. They might well fail an inspection, but basically, yeah, it actually took a lot of stripping out because the pistons were seized in here. I'll show you how I did one on the other one I've got on the bench here in a video coming up pretty shortly. Right, so I've done 3 of them so far, so that just leaves 1 left to do to strip out before we rebuild them. We're going to do both types of caliper. Right, so this is mainly the problem. The pistons generally corrode. They're chrome coated and they don't last a long time. This is the D2 piston. It's a little bit bigger, you can see, and it seems to have been protected better. However, it did seize in the bore. Right, so I've got a caliper on here, and I'm just clamping two of the pistons with a G-cramp and a brake pad, and I'm also blocking off one of the pistons from coming out completely with a G-cramp, and I'm going to put compressed air in here and just pop one of these out. What you have to watch out for is getting your fingers in there and getting them smashed by the pistons, so just keep them out of the way. Right, we will be stripping these down later, but I just want to take a piston out and show you. This one I actually removed earlier, and I'm cleaning the crap off it, and you can see how badly pitted it is. This is no good, it needs to be replaced. This is a wiper seal with a retainer, and this stops any ingress of dirt and crap getting into the caliper bore. Okay, so it's an engineered part, and inside here in the bore, and I'll just pull out the seal. Well, I'll pretend to, because they're a bit of a bitch to remove. So here is your fluid seal. Okay, these are recommended replace every 4 years. Okay, now here's another Defender caliper. I'll just pop the piston out like so. And what you'll see when I actually get it close to you is the piston again is corroded on this edge, and basically it's not serviceable. When you put pads in, you can't push it back far enough, and it's also this coating is coming off. Right, so the Discovery 2 slider pins, these are always problems. This I had to use heat on to remove, and they were stuck in the slider holes. However, after I'd put these into the electrolysis tank, you can see that the pin holes, they're actually cleaner than they were, because I couldn't move the pins in them before, and I couldn't put a 10mm drill in it either. So you can see how electrolysis has actually helped a little bit. When you're cleaning these, you really do need to strip them down however you're going to clean them. But you can see where I put the heat onto it to get it into the pin. Now, this is what I want to talk about, because on this pin cover is a rubber piece, and I removed those. And all of the rubber parts here, the seals and the covers and the flexies, everything else, okay, you do not touch these if these have been burnt. I can't remember the technical name for it, but basically this is like napalm, and it will eat into your skin, and it's not nice. Okay, so just remember that. I'll find the name and I'll let you know in the next video. However, just be careful with heat. Right, so what we need to ascertain basically, because there are different piston sizes, is to measure the pistons and see what size we've got, because this is how we have to go. Now, these are 41. I think there's a 31, there's a 36, okay. And this, I can't tell you what the part numbers are, and this is one of the biggest problems, because you are probably not going to find the calipers that were original with your vehicle if you have an old vehicle. But go by chassis number if you're going to order parts, all right? And if they don't match up, then obviously you've got the wrong calipers. Right, I'll just show you this one. This is the largest piston I've found, which is at 46mm. Now, this is off a V8 LDV front axle, which is a 1500 kilogram axle. Okay, they're big brakes. And the Discovery 2 one is actually a little bit smaller on the piston size. It does make a difference, because the bigger area that there is for the fluid to push, the more brake power you actually get. However, don't go out and just get the biggest calipers you need, because it also depends on the weight of the vehicle. Right, so we have a 41mm piston sizes, and I measured the other calipers, which are actually going to overhaul. So what I've gone and done is order a full set for rears and fronts, because they're all the same size, with the seals, wiper seals and everything else. Okay, so we can go ahead and overhaul all of them. Okay, that's a full set. Now, these are blue box, so they are Brit part, and they do measure up all right. These are stainless steel pistons, so they won't corrode, and this I would recommend doing them whichever way you do them, when you overhaul calipers, because there's no point in getting calipers that are going to cause problems later on. Basically, you get a lot of brake problems if pistons start to stick. You start to lose braking efficiency. So anyway, these are chrome, and you can see that the chrome, and underneath you've got copper there. These are not. These won't corrode at all, which is good. So I'll just show you here. I've clamped off 2 pistons, and one of them will not come out because the G-cramp is stopping it from moving. All right, and I'll put some air in here. You'll see the pad move. What I'm trying to achieve is to get one of the pistons out, and it's not moving. It's solid, and this is going to be a problem because it's nearly flush with the body. Anyway, basically what I'll do in the next few videos is overhauling calipers. I don't think we'll paint them, but I'll show you how to remove the pistons and replace the seals. There is a bit to this, however it is a very simple operation. Okay, so I'll see you in the next few videos.